Hi, I'm Shannon Sear, and I'm the relationship coach for men. So today we are talking about intimacy and connection, and really, what is it, right? What is intimacy? I think that intimacy is really one of the most misunderstood topics that we have inside of our relationships. So hopefully, this will help kind of expand our idea of what intimacy really is and give you some new ideas on how you can start more conversations around that, right? And create some changes. And so we all need help with this topic because no one really taught us how to be in a relationship, with another person and really create and sustain this connected, loving, committed relationship over the course of decades. We certainly don't really know what creates connection. We just think it's togetherness. And while that's a little piece of it, it's not the whole recipe, right? So intimacy is one of those pieces, but there's kind of this common misconception, what it is and what it's not. So if you were to walk up to someone on the street and kind of ask them, what their definition of intimacy is, most people are going to say something that has to do with sex. And either it's getting ready for sex or the act of sex or something along those lines, right? So it's kind of like at some point we didn't really want to say the word sex, so we came up with a different word for it, and we ended up using that phrase, being intimate. And then we kind of extended the definition of intimacy to include sex. And that really isn't true because as we all know, you can have sex without intimacy, and you can have intimacy without sex. But when you have both and there is sex with intimacy, that closeness that you can feel with your partner is really, really something that's difficult to kind of put into words. And so I want to give you a definition from one of the experts on intimacy. And so this is from Harriet Lerner. And of the many books she wrote, this particular one is called The Dance of Intimacy. And the way she describes it is that intimacy means that we can be who we are in the relationship and allow the other person to do the same. It requires that we can talk openly about things that are important to us, that we can take a clear position on where we stand on important emotional issues, and that we can clarify the limits of what's really acceptable and tolerable for us inside a relationship. We're allowed to have boundaries in our most intimate relationships, and that's actually also part of the ingredients, that go into creating intimacy. She also says that, allowing to the other person to do the same means that we can stay emotionally connected to the other person. So even though they may think and believe differently than we do, we don't feel the need to change them or convince them that they shouldn't feel the way that they do or try to fix them in some way. An intimate relationship is one which, neither party sacrifices, silences, or betrays the self, and each party can express their own strength and vulnerability as well as weakness in a very balanced way. So essentially, what she's saying in all of that is that intimacy is the safe space that really exists between the two of you. And when that safe space exists, connection and closeness can occur. So the goal is to have a relationship that doesn't operate at the expense of yourself, and it doesn't operate at the expense of the other or your partner, right? So the goal is two independent people who come together and create this third entity, which is the marriage, and you create a safe space between the two of you around that entity. So intimacy is the closeness between two people, and there is often touch that is present, and that is a piece of that, but that's not all of it. So, it's really a safe space where each of you can fully express the good, the bad, the ugly, just everything, and really know that that other person is going to be okay with that. And when you really feel seen by another human in any close relationship, that is really the intimate space, and also a very vulnerable space. So if we look at the ingredients of a loving, committed partnership, intimacy is right up there at the top, along with connection. And we need connection to have intimacy, but we also really need to have great communication. And we're not really great at communication since no one's really taught us how to do that either. So this is kind of one of those areas where things, they sometimes go sideways, right? So, think about it. I mean, when you got married, you were probably in your 20s or 30s. And, intimacy was probably not that thing you were checking off your checklist, right? You were probably looking for things like, she's a good person, she's a good fit, we like the same things, she'll be a great mother, I love her, things like that. It's more like we're trying to kind of fit these puzzle pieces together that create a good fit and not really thinking about intimacy. We kind of just think that that's going to magically happen, after you're together for a long time and with somebody, or that it's just something that kind of exists or doesn't exist. And that's not the case either, right? So the good news is that although we aren't taught intimacy and closeness and connection and communication, these are all completely things that we can learn, right? They're all learnable. And so they're not things that you just have or you don't have. You can always learn how to create intimacy and get better at the ingredients that go into having an intimate relationship. So I hope this was helpful for you and that it's giving you just a different way of thinking about what intimacy actually is in your relationship. If you'd like to explore other ways to create more intimacy in your relationship and see if we're a good fit to work together in a private coaching capacity, I invite you to schedule a complimentary exploratory session with me. If you like what you heard today, I hope you'll subscribe to my channel as I come out with new topics every single week. All my best.